Hello, welcome to Caesar's Snack Sandwich. Today I'm taking a look at FiRM, the fixed rate money market protocol by Noir and Pat B of Inverse Finance. Now this is pretty interesting. I've read this through and focused in on a lot of the aspects, and as usual I do have a flowchart for you, so instead of going through here and showing you specific things, you can watch the flowchart and you'll understand how this project works. But if you want to know the maths and the specifics, then come into this white paper, and I'll put a link to it in the tweet as well as at the bottom of this video in the description. But you can come in and read if you want to know the formulas and stuff like that, come here and look at them. Okay, that's pretty much it for the intro. So let's go over to the flowchart. Okay, so today we start with Boosted Bill because, Boosted Bill likes to borrow stable coins and degen with them. So that's what this protocol is for, but it's trying to bring down his degeneracy a little bit with obviously fixed rate interest. Okay, so first of all, traditionally at Inverse Finance and then at most stablecoin protocols, this is how it would work. You would supply some collateral, over collateralized, so $150, and you would borrow $100 or something along that lines, right? And then as time progresses, you build up interest, okay, based on the interest rate of supply and demand. So your interest rate will fluctuate based on how much supply there is and how much demand there is. The more supply, the higher your interest rate. The more supply, the lower your interest rate, and the opposite, of course, as well. So as time progresses, you build up debt, but it's very hard to predict this, right? And if you want to use these stable coins, right, in DeFi somehow, like this one's the dollar stablecoin from Inverse Finance, if you want to sell it or do whatever you want to do with your stable coins, like buy real world assets or hedge against things and stuff like that, then it's harder to do this because you can't predict, because you don't know how much interest you're going to pay. You can make an estimate, but you can't be certain, right? So this protocol, or this idea, this aspect of Inverse Finance is attempting to fix this. So they're going to do away with this this aspect of supply and demand based interest model, and they're going to instead sell these debt-based tokens, okay? Now the name of this is dollar borrow rate tokens, and basically you can think of this as you're buying the interest that you need to pay on your debt. So for each, you need $1 DBR token for every $1 you want to borrow for 1 year sitting inside your wallet. Now the cost is about 5 cents on the dollar. So you're going to pay 5 cents on the dollar for a year. Now I assume this number could be changed. This is a white paper, so they might change this number. And then as you go into as I go through this flowchart, you will see how this number will change. So this might be the default setting, or this might just be a number that they've put on the white paper to kind of give you an idea of where things will start off, right? So think of it this way. So he puts in $150 as normal, over collateralizes, borrows $100, but then also has to buy, $5 or something of these debt tokens, which, is basically paying his interest up front, so to speak. And then these debt tokens, they will sit in your wallet, right? And as time progresses, the debt tokens will decay. And when they go to zero, then you start getting into danger territory, right? So as they're decaying and as they're getting close to gone, then Boosted Bill has some options. Okay, he can repay his debt, and then he ends up with these debt tokens, which he can then sell on the open market. And I'm not sure if he will be able to sell them into the inverse market, or if he will have to go to the outside Uniswap market. But he will be able to sell these tokens, right? And maybe get some ETH back, or I don't know, if he goes to inverse, he'll probably get dollar back or something along that lines. So he will be able to sell his debt, his paid interest, so to speak, back to the market, and if he repays his debt, right? Because he will end up with these still sitting in his wallet, and they are worth money, okay? Now, a second option is he can just buy more debt-based tokens, either from Inverse or from the secondary market, assuming that this secondary market is something that will happen. But he will definitely, the white paper definitely says he will be able to return to market and buy more debt-based. So he can just replenish his debt base, so just pay more interest, basically, right? And then the last option is if he is super degenerate and he is just like forgotten about this, or he's gone on vacation or something, and his debt-based tokens do decay to zero, he's not in big trouble yet. Okay, so the protocol will start minting him debt-based tokens, right? They will just start sending him some, but they will also increase his debt. Okay, and it will be greater than the premium, the current price of these debt-based tokens. So obviously he doesn't want to do that, but this is good for people who are like, life happens, right? And, he's not going to get liquidated immediately, right? Now the liquidator is watching. He's watching the collateral ratio, the max collateral ratio of his assets, because he's over collateralized, right? And his current debt of both, his degenerate addings as well as his current position. And when the max collateral ratio is met, then he will be liquidated. So it's not like this can, he will just get paid these debt-paid tokens forever. That's just stupid, right? So he eventually will get liquidated. And of course, the liquidator will get an incentive to liquidate him of like something like 10%. And then perhaps Inverse Finance will also get some sort of kickback for liquidating this guy. So obviously you don't want to get liquidated, but this is a small protection against, just life happens and you miss it for a day or two or something like that. Okay? Over to the next part. Now, let's talk about the peg of dollar. Now, there's obviously still the normal mechanisms of borrow and ARB, the liquidity pools, right, of all stablecoins that usually use this. But now there's also this debt-based mechanic to help retain peg. So whenever dollar goes below peg, so it's worth 99 cents, say, then they started to burn the debt, okay? So they start to make debt more expensive. And then, assuming that Uniswap does have it, there will be an ARB here, right? And what that would do is that will encourage him to repay his debt and sell his debt-based tokens, because the debt-based tokens are being burned. So then the cost of them is going up. So he can then, sell his debt at a profit. Okay, so we're actually decreasing his interest that he had to pay on his loan by repaying early and selling his interest back to the market. Now the opposite, if dollar is above peg, then they will just add more supply of debt-based interest tokens into the supply and encourage people to borrow more dollar, because it will be cheaper to do so. And then you, of course, will then take that dollar and sell it and bring it back down to peg. So this is the idea. So this is added to the system that's already in place of just simply like, if I borrow and sell versus the price on Curve or whatever AMM happens to hold the inverse token or the dollar token, right? Now, onwards. Now, in comes dollar bill. Our dollar bill's been, always thinking about, borrowing versus his ETH or his WBTC or something, but he doesn't like the systems, okay? So the current compound system has the weakest link problem where, one token inside this pool can wreck the entire thing because, there's been tons of hacks. Inverse has been hacked twice from this, and so has Cream Finance. It's just because of the tokens inside here get manipulated, and then they're used to borrow all the other tokens. And this is basically the compound system, the compound finance system. Now, another one is the abracadabra, the isolated pools. Now, the problem with these that scares dollar bill is that they're big, huge honeypots for the hackers. Now, this is obviously a huger honeypot, but they're both honeypots, right? There's a lot of people's, WBTC sitting in that one isolated market that these hackers are looking at. And then the other problem here is that these tokens that are added here, assuming that they are a governance token or something, they lose the token rights. So maybe like emissions or rewards or bribes or this kind of stuff, even voting rights, they're kind of lost because they're locked inside these contracts, and these contracts then get those rights, so to speak, and they usually keep those rights or give them to the governance token holders of the particular lending protocol. So what they've decided to do here is they're going to create these escrow contracts. So dollar bill will put his Bitcoin inside here. That collateral is then told to Inverse Finance and allows him to borrow dollar, right? With the same system over here with the debt-based, he's got to buy debt-based tokens, but you get the idea. So his Bitcoin is sitting in this one contract. It's not given to Inverse Finance. So if Bitcoin does have some sort of token right, or whatever token he puts in there, he will retain those through his escrow. His escrow will have that right? And then onwards, there's some protections in place as well as this escrow. So there's a whole bunch of escrows, so that makes it harder for a hacker to be like, oh, I want to get that money because it's a big bag of money. He has to hack all these individual escrows instead, which is not impossible, but harder, right? Another aspect of security that they've added is that they're going to have a daily limit on how much can be borrowed. And so if let's say it's $1 million can only go out, so then the hacker can only ever extract $1 million in a day. And hackers don't hack day after day to the same protocol, because once they hack once, they give up their chips, they give up their hand, they show their hand, and then that vulnerability is usually patched, right? And then the third way that they're trying to mitigate the risk and increase security is that they're using the current Oracle price, and they're also using the 48-hour low divided by the collateral factor. So there's a formula in here. You can read that paragraph, but basically there's two oracles. There's the oracle that is current, there's the 48-hour low, and then they divide it by the collateral factor to give a number, right? So what this does is it creates a less manipulability of the oracle price. So the hacker cannot manipulate the oracle price and then immediately borrow and then unmanipulate it. So that's basically how a lot of hacks have happened in the past to these lending protocols. Is he borrows, he messes with the oracle price, then flash loans, messes with the oracle price, borrows a whole bunch of cash out, and then uses that to fix or to repay his his flash loan, right? So this kind of mitigates that problem, and it also creates for a lower price because it's taking the lower of the two, right? Basically, and it forces it reduces the degeneracy of like bad positions, right? Because you're going to basically only be able to borrow assets based on the lower of the two of these. So your collateral is worth less than it currently is based on which one's lower right now. Okay. Next part, we have Caesar. Now this is something interesting as well. Like I said, there's all these different escrows. So there is the possibility of there being like specialized or particularly special escrow contracts for particular people or entities. So not really an individual, so to speak, but probably a DAO. Like say there's a DAO and they might have specific, adjustments to their escrow, like maybe their interest rate or, the amount of DB or something, or how much their collateral factors or something like this, or even maybe the asset that is accepted as collateral. There's a possibility that this kind of thing can be done more easily then, because it's not being added to the pools of all the other people's funds. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I hope this has been useful and interesting, and I appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.